That's what it'll come down to. Okay, welcome. Excuse me, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Chairperson Martin,
Here?
Mr. Conway,
Here.
Ms. Scott,
Here.
all present.
Perfect. We're also joined by our fellow colleagues, Ms. Ross-Sikowitz, Mr. Leary, and Mr. Gendron. So we are here tonight for our Personnel Subcommittee, the final subcommittee meeting before we begin our interviews of the superintendent candidates. A few things that we'll just need to kind of, nail down during this meeting, hopefully to help things go a little bit smoother. First off would be, I do think that we need to make a final determination on the meeting date. We are scheduled, as we all know, all week long, with additional interview dates on Wednesday and Thursday. We have the option of either calling a meeting, a full school committee meeting on either Friday or Monday. I believe are the two options we're looking at. We can be as flexible as we possibly can. What was critical to me was that we're not voting on the same night. I want us to at least have 24 hours to review, but I would open it up to opinions across the board. Yes, Ms. Ross-Sikowitz.
Ms. Martin, I will be out of town May 11th through the 15th, so Monday would not be an option for myself. Friday would be.
Friday would be the preference?
Yes.
I know you had concerns around Friday. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay. So sad. Yes, Mr. Gendron.
I mean, I suppose we could also meet on Saturday. I don't know if that's an option for anybody.
It's fine.
And I'm wondering, is it possible that we might want more time with some of the candidates after the interviews? Are we absolutely sure we're going to be ready to vote on the next day? I'm just wondering if after the interviews we might want to think about or have the option to have a little more time.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose we could take that up on Friday. At Friday,
Yeah, I
if
mean,
we're not
again,
ready to
if we
vote,
weren't ready,
then
we
we
can-
could potentially discuss it.
That's actually very true. Just that if we came to Friday, if we really felt we weren't ready to move forward, we could give ourselves more time. We're not locked in. I would say, best case scenario, we should be able to hopefully have our everything in place and be able to, again, in a perfect world, make our decision for Friday. I think perhaps our best course would be to set that as our date now. And as my colleague, Mr. Gendron, says, if we do hit a wall and we need to give ourselves extra time, we can avail ourselves of it at that point. We'll know. So I would take that as a motion by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, please say aye. Excellent. So, Mr. Cassidy, if you could please connect with the superintendent's office so we can get the meeting scheduled. My understanding is it needs to be a full meeting, a special meeting of the full school committee on that Friday. 6:30? How early?
6:30.
I mean, we could do 6 if that's...
6 o'clock.
So if we could do it at 6, see if the chamber is available at 6 o'clock? Yep, that would be great. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. One topic done. Secondly, we do need to discuss our kind of approach this evening for our first interview. I will just say, from my perspective, having been through it, we generally have tried to go through this so that we can ask questions that will obviously be probing, obviously give us real insights into the candidate. So I certainly recommend those. We ask the tough questions. That's what we're here to do. As a rule, it's been kind of promoted that sometimes we're best served if you have the same questions and are prepared to ask the same questions to every one of the candidates, at least for the most part. Generally, we've had about 2 questions each, depending on how we want to set up our time frame. If we want to kind of give the candidates a little less time to answer, we could probably get to 3, and then perhaps be able to ask your 2 main questions and then have an opportunity to ask a third. On the other hand, we may want to decide that we want to give ourselves the option of follow-up questions to other colleagues' questions. So it's kind of a structural question that we can decide here. I don't know, Mr. Gilbert, if you have any recommendations in terms of kind of how to craft that?
Give the candidate an opportunity to make an opening statement. Then if you, you've really set aside about an hour for each of these. Generally, in an hour, you can get through 3 questions. With 7 of you, you should be able to get through 3 questions each. And then give them an opportunity to close. So somebody watch the clock as you go through, so that
Perhaps we could hire a consultant for that.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And just so that there is that opportunity for them to make a closing statement. I think that's going to be important, not as important tonight as it will be Wednesday and Thursday when you have 2 candidates and they'll be crossing over.
So, and I believe we've already forwarded that information to the candidates, correct? So they're
Yes.
prepared with opening and closing statements?
Yep.
Okay. So I would, yes, Mr. Gendron.
So I'd like to make a suggestion that rather than limit the members on number of questions, that we limit the members on time. I have a number of questions that shouldn't take a long time to answer, just points on the resume and that sort of thing that I'd like to bring out. Maybe they'll come out in other people's questioning. But if I have 4 or 5 questions that I can get answered in less than 10 minutes, I think that ought to be reasonable. So I'd like to suggest that we limit it to time rather than number of questions. Maybe give each member, we
Yeah,
have
has 10 minutes
75
and we
minutes
just
on
work
the
our way
interview.
down?
Give each member a maximum of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And go from there.
I don't have any problem with that. Any concerns?
Nope.
No. Okay, so then I think that would be fine. So we'll go alphabetically. Each individual will have 10 minutes to ask their questions. You can ask any follow-ups at that point, but for other committee members, if they do want to ask a follow-up, they'd need to use their own time when it gets to their place in the rotation. I think that would be great. Okay. And then our final question, final opportunity here was to discuss, I know that we had, all of us participated in one way or another in some of the site visits, and had the opportunity to travel to some different districts to do some more extensive reference calling. I would counsel that, obviously this is a public meeting, so I would encourage everyone to share appropriately what your impressions were, so that we do have an opportunity to share that in open session. And then as people, come through the interviewing process, you can certainly ask questions that may or may not have been driven by your exposure to the additional time in the site visits or reference calls. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in, or I can kind of do a quick review of the ones I had gone through. I was able to attend with Ms. Scott, Mr. Fuentes, Fred Fuentes, who is in Boston as an executive director. I think it was a well-planned day, and he gave us an opportunity to see meet with a lot of different people who had worked with him in a lot of different regards. They were certainly very positive about his work there, and I think had really clearly shown him to be a creative thinker in the way he was addressing problems. And I think they really spoke very highly about his managerial style and his partnership style, which were some key things. I don't know if it's easier to do it by person.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
And I, obviously, I also attended that meeting. They were very passionate about Fred's desire to meet the socioeconomic needs of students, about providing wraparound services to students. They were passionate about him helping students not to drop out of school, and increasing student achievement. So that would be my input on him.
We had also done some reference calls for Dr. Pope, myself, Ms. Rosikowitz, and Mr. Conway. Again, I think it was, we were able to talk to about 5 different people representing school committee members, the business administrator in that district, and a number of parents as well who he had given us to talk to. Again, very positive. I think they talked very clearly about his strength as a leader. And again, from my impressions, that the work he had done in Marlborough had really been a very positive thing. And, you know, obviously for the people you're giving as references, they were all very positive. But I certainly was impressed with their sharing with us of how kind of the strength of character of the individual, and that he had been faced with a lot of real challenges that he had risen to. So it was actually, it was great to hear from different perspectives, from parents as well as school committee members. That was really very, very helpful. And I don't know if my colleagues have any other insights to share. That would be a no. Then we had the trip out to Winchendon for Dr. Calfori. I may be Kafuli. Thank you. Again, a great day, a very well-managed site visit, I would say. It really had gone extremely smoothly, with some great opportunities to talk, not just with staff, but again, with several school committee members, a former member of their Board of Selectmen. We also had a great opportunity to talk with students, which was really remarkable, and they were really great kids, who really had a lot to say about their personal relationships with their superintendent, which I thought was very impressive. We did talk a lot about kind of the scale, where that district is decidedly smaller than ours. They're a district of about 1,400 students as opposed to our over 14,000. But I think also they were very positive about the leadership qualities, and you know, I got the sense of their impressions of Dr. Kalfawi as a very solid leader who really did quite well in the face of real challenges. So that was impressive. The final, there was the site visit here in Lowell for Dr. Jay Lang. Oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead with Dr.
Stop it.
Kalfawi. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm just trying to, I apologize.
I think Steve was going to comment on Kalfui too. There's some areas, some highlights for Dr. Kalfui that really stood out for me, was his stand on funding that he took with the town, that the union members, all of the union heads came to the table and said that he had been a partner with them, and that he really let them know what was happening within the budget, that he used a needs-based budget because there were some dire conditions that they were facing in the district. Parent involvement was really key in the district, and that he had a strong presence, that people saw him in the schools and knew who he was, and that he was, you know, active in the community.
Yes, Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Yes, Mr. Leary and I were able to call into this meeting via the wonders of telephone technology, which failed us a few times, but we managed to get the gist of it. And I would just echo the comments. The administrators and union heads that we sat in on all talked about Mr. Kalfawi as a calm professional, and the communications with the staff seemed to be, we didn't specifically talk about this, but I could only surmise that it seemed to be very good, because everybody seemed to be on the same page with what was going on. And they also expressed that while they would felt bad about potentially losing their superintendent, they understood his rationale and felt that this would be a good professional move for him.
Yes, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, thank you. This morning, I had the privilege to be part of the team to show Dr. Kalfawi around the high school. And we met with the headmaster and the director of curriculum to start off with. A lot of questions were asked there, and information certainly was brought forward. They did talk about the new possibility of the new high school and the implications and where it might be and why it was needed. Also, he talked about the online learning, and that was something that, again, we've been talking about before, and they have some type of a hybrid process. As he said, it was difficult to put into place. We went from there to one of the homerooms, and he talked with a number of students, And I think they were impressed with the fact that he could speak 4 languages. When he came to this country, he didn't have the understanding of the English language, so there was a bit of a bond that developed, I think, with many of the students with him. And it seems as though we did have a nice ease with the students. And then we had a tour with one of the housemasters and department heads, and went to the 3 different buildings and was given the lay of the land. So it was interesting, and it was a good meeting. Thank you.
Okay, our next, the next group that we went to see, next site visit, was all the way to Merrimack Street here in Lowell. And it was the series of focus groups that were arranged for us by Dr. Jay Lang. I would say, it was again, a nice mix of individuals who had worked with Dr. Lang over the course of his time here in Lowell, representing a number of different administrators, principals, and teachers. And I actually was impressed. We had a representative from the city who was here as well, talking about kind of that relationship between the schools and the city. And overall, it really was, again, very positive about Dr. Lang's approach to solving problems, about his approachability from people at a lot of different levels, and how comfortable and confident they were about working with him as the leader of the district. So overall, it was obviously a very positive conversation. And I thought we had a really nice mix of individuals who were there talking about the different aspects of Dr. Lang's leadership style. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo some of the comments that you made. It was very impressive. We had two different groups of individuals, and some of these people have been retired. I've certainly highly thought of in the community, and they all had extremely positive things to say about Dr. Lang and his accomplishments, and the fact of how he could certainly lead the school system as its next superintendent. So again, it was great to see that group. Some of them were my ex-bosses, so they kind of hemmed me in a bit. But it was a great visit by those individuals, and it was a very positive environment. Thank you.
And then our final one, I was not able to attend, so I don't know if you'd like to take us through it.
Surely. So I was charged with doing the phone references for Dr. Kreiner Cash. I interviewed 8 to 9 individuals. 2 of the individuals that I had interviewed for references were former school committee members. One was their union president. And to provide some perspective, the Memphis School District had 7,000 union members, has 7,000 union members. The remainder were colleagues that worked with Dr. Cash in the areas of operations, finance, accountability, curriculum. First and foremost, what I got from every single person across the board is he's a teacher. And, from not only just teaching our children, but also teaching our staff and modeling what good teaching looks like. And the one consistent theme across the board was hard on the work, light on the staff, which I found to be interesting. So great working relationship throughout the district. The union's president was actually very, very positive about Dr. Cash and his ability to work across the district with all the unions and effect some fairly significant change in the time that he was there. In the time that he was there, there was a $93 million cut by the city of Memphis from their budget. And so they in turn actually sought funding through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to the tune of, I believe, $95 million. And it was over the course of 3 4 years. And it was really tailored to turnarounds. And so naturally, when you have these, similar to Common Core, what we experienced with our federal funding coming in, there was certainly some natural trepidation by all members of the staff, and Dr. Cash was able to navigate them through that process very well, and he came out very well in the end. However, his tenure was not short-lived, but it was cut off when when 2 school districts merged into one. And so anyway, but a couple of the pieces that stood out to me was Dr. Cash had created a prep school, which is our version of an alternative school. And I found that rather fascinating that, when they said preparatory school, I thought, oh, college preparatory. They said, no. It was for those kids that were most at risk. And I thought, well, that's our alternative school. And the response from that particular individual was, well, they wanted to use language that was more empowering. And I thought that was really, that stood out to me. Let's see. Parent engagement, he was very well known in the community. He went out into the faith-based communities, spoke to them. Sort of the mores in Memphis, as you might imagine, a lot of their communities center around church. So he had to do a bit of work to become more ingratiated within the community. Historically, their superintendents had come from within the community, so their educators, their former superintendents came from within those churches, so they were really well known. But Dr. Cash was a perfect fit for them, and he fit right in. And the other piece on parent engagement was there were, I believe, 200 schools in the district, and what they did was they actually decentralized it. So rather than just have all central operations in one building, they actually decentralized and went out to 4 sub-regions, and also making really with the primary aim of allowing easier access for our families and their families and their children. So. At any rate, no, it was a good process, and it was the union president had a lot of really positive things to say about this gentleman, which I found interesting. You don't always find that. So, but no, it was good. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts to share before we enter into our first interview. No? I will say this is obviously where the rubber really meets the road, so we'll have an opportunity a little over an hour to talk with our first candidate, who has spent the entire day here in Lowell. Seems like an exhausting process to me, but Mr. Gilbert says they're up for it, so we'll have an opportunity. He'll be joining us in just a little while. Interview is scheduled to begin at 7 o'clock. In 15 minutes? 7:15? Oh, geez Louise. Oh, okay. Who knew we were all going to get along so well tonight, that we'd get through this meeting so quickly? So we'll adjourn this meeting, and we'll be reconvening as the full school committee at 7:15. So motion to adjourn by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Wasn't that quick?